Hello, welcome back to the channel. So, with Amphoreus almost over, I wanted to talk about something that I've seen a lot of people say, basically since Amphoreus started, which is that it is too long. Which I can kind of agree with to some extent. Like, there are definitely certain parts of the story that could be shortened, or some parts that could just be, cut out. But I feel like some people do take this too far because the story would not work if each part was just like 2 hours long or something. Like, I've seen people say that 3.0 and 3.3 could have been done in 1 or 2 patches, which I just do not agree with at all. I feel like a lot of people just want the big moments and that is it, when those exciting moments would not work without the build-up and the context that make them exciting in the first place. I mean, 3.4 is a good example of this. I think that quest was the perfect length where it felt long enough to feel impactful and we got all the information and build-up for the ending, but not so long that it felt dragged out. Because I do understand saying that some parts do feel dragged out, because I do kind of agree to some extent. That was my main problem with 3.2, because it just felt like a lot of it felt a bit unnecessary, and even for me, at parts I was kind of like, alright, let's just get to the point. But I think there's a big difference between going, yeah, some parts could be, cut down a bit, and the presentation and some parts could be a bit better, and saying to just cut out half the story, which would make half the characters feel like they have no purpose. You can't have a story with this many characters and only have it span 3 or 4 patches. It would just not have enough time to develop all of them and give them all the time they need. Because then you would get the problem that Pentagony had, where it just felt really rushed, and a lot of characters like Boothill just felt like they had nothing to do. And I've also seen people say that 3.5 and 3.6 just haven't really felt like they've served a purpose, and would rather just have had a finale already. And while there are definitely been more of set-up patches and kind of expanding the world and the characters and stuff like that, but at least in my opinion, they still feel substantial and necessary. I really enjoyed Ceredra and Hyceline's story. Getting more development on the MC was great. Getting more development of just the main trio in general, I think, was amazing. Were they perfect? No, I don't think any of the parts of the story are perfect. At 3.5 specifically, I feel that the presentation went way down, especially compared to 3.4, but I still enjoyed the actual story of it. I can't understand people wanting something different and getting a bit sick of Amphoreus with it spanning the whole year, or at least I believe close to it. And I do kind of miss some of the more one-off stories, like the Topaz story or the Xianzhou stuff, or even the 2.7 story. Since I made the older characters feel more relevant, but now basically it's just only the Amphoreus characters and a select few like Herda and them. But Amphoreus would not work if it just ended in 3.4, because then you would have to develop all the villains, all of our characters, all the finale and stuff with Iron Tomb and all that, or even Ceredra as well. That would just not work. But I'm gonna be honest, I feel like a lot of people's problems with the story just come from just not paying attention. I've seen a lot of people say that we learned almost nothing about Cypher, and the only thing she did was when she died at the end and her whole secret was revealed. Which did you even play the story? We get multiple flashbacks showing her past with Aglaia, and even if she didn't get as much screen time as some of the other characters, she still got decently fleshed out. There's a reason why she is a beloved character. I think that this whole year-long format works for Amphoreus specifically, because it is meant to be this big adventure. Now, do I think that the next planet should be this long? Probably not, especially since I feel like a lot of people wouldn't really like that. But I think it really just depends on what the devs are going for, because it seems like the next planet or next arc is going to be more about bringing back past plot points and that kind of thing. So I could see us jumping around to different places a bit more. But I think the main problem just with this year-long format in general is that the story is kind of just all we've been getting. So besides the story, there just hasn't really been much to do. So by now people are kind of bored of it, since it just feels like more of the same thing, if we got more events that focused on some older characters, similar to the War Dance or something like that, I don't think people would have nearly as big of a problem with it, because it would feel like there's a bit more variety, right? Right now there just isn't really variety, it's just all Amphoreus and that's it. But in terms of the actual length of each part of the story itself, I can understand people's problems with it to some extent, because like it is very long. Like, let's not be honest, it is long. I believe some parts are like 10 hours long. Like a 10-hour long quest is a commitment, and I believe someone did the math. All of Amphoreus is like over 40 hours long, which is a lot. And like I said, I do think some parts could be cut down a bit, but I feel like for most of them, besides maybe like 3.0 and 3.2, the length I think is justified, and most of the problem of it feeling too long mainly just comes from people trying to play it all in one go. Like, yeah, obviously if you play an 8-hour quest all at once, you're gonna get kind of tired of it by the end. I mean, I've done that, and I think that kind of ruined a lot of the experience for me. That's why I always play the story at least in 2 parts now, because it has made me enjoy it a lot more. And I get wanting to play through it as soon as possible to try and not get spoiled, because it is very easy now, especially with how prevalent leaks are. But, like, it's not the fault of the story if you just try to rush through it, you know? And, like, the game has a skip button now. Like, if you don't enjoy the story, you can just skip through it. Now again, this is not me saying that there aren't problems with the story. There definitely are. For example, you know, the presentation on some parts could definitely be better. But I feel like there is this connotation going around that the story is just 10 minutes of a good part, and then the rest is just filler, which is objectively not true. Like most of the information that we get isn't necessary for it to work at all. Like, the reason something like Belobog works for being shorter is because the story is pretty simple. Like, there's not that much actually going on. Amphoreus is not simple at all. There's a lot of lore and information to get through, so it needs that time to properly convey all of the information, so you don't just get confused on what's happening. Which even still, people somehow miss a lot of the obvious stuff. At the end of the day, is Amphoreus too long? I think both yes and no at the same time. Could definitely shorten some parts. I do hope for the next planet they try to keep more towards the length of 3.4. But overall, I think the time works for what Amphoreus is trying to do, which is be that, you know, this big adventure story. Like, I can get the people's problem with it, because it can feel like a commitment, since a 10-hour quest is a lot, and it can definitely put people out from playing it, because, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people don't have time to play 10-hour quest, you know? Like, even me, who enjoys the story a lot, took a while for me to continue the story, because you need to be, invested in it to enjoy it. I think that is kind of the problem with Star Wars story in general. Like, you have to be invested and in the mood to play it. You can't just be like, yeah, I guess I'll do it, because if you do that, you are just not going to have a good time. Like, it is clearly designed for the people who love the lore and the characters and all that. And, you know, not everyone is going to be into that, which is fine, but I don't think that makes it bad. It just means it's not made for everyone, which I think is fine. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.